I'm Baram Jam. I'm a physiotherapist in Toronto, Canada, and I want to talk about stress. Acute stress is often good as it helps us grow. But if you deal with a lot of continuous, severe stress every day for months or years, then the stress can become just too much and lead to both emotional and physical health issues. I want to take a few minutes to talk about, in simple terms, how chronic stress can contribute to maintaining physical pain, and most importantly, what we can do about it. I want to specifically focus on the endogenous opioid system, which is a term I assume most non-medical people aren't yet familiar with, but you will be. There are two basic types of opioids, endogenous and exogenous. Endogenous means the opioid is naturally produced by the body itself. And exogenous refers to opioids that are produced in a lab and offered externally via pills or injections. Examples of exogenous opioids include codeine, hydrocodone, morphine, heroin, and fentanyl. An example of endogenous opioid is endorphins, which the endo means produced by the body, and morphine together, that means endorphins. Now, endorphins are hormones that are released when your body feels pain or stress. They're produced in your brain as they bring your body back to homeostasis. And homeostasis means a place where it is stable and biologically more comfortable. Therefore, endorphins are produced in times of pain or stress in order to help increase comfort, reduce stress, and improve mood, which are all, of course, good things, wonderful things. However, endorphins are also released in response to pleasurable activities, meditation, laughter, and vigorous exercise, which is why these activities have been shown to increase one's tolerance to pain. Often, vigorous exercise like running or swimming release a lot of the feel-good endorphins, where some actually feel high. This is the explanation behind those who develop exercise addiction, in which the brain becomes desensitized because of repeated and excessive exposures to endorphins. So exercise addicts keep increasing their workout intensity in order to achieve the same high or the feel-good sensation. So if exercise can be addictive because of buildup of tolerance to endorphins, then could stress and pain also become addictive? Perhaps. When we go through normal acute stress, cortisol and adrenaline are released to keep us alert for the fight or flight response. However, after a while, the body naturally says, I've had enough of this stress. It's time for me to calm down. This is where the endogenous opioids, such as endorphins, kick in. This is to help return the person back to homeostasis. Again, a place where the body is biologically more comfortable, because that's the job of opioids. Endorphins make us feel more comfortable. With constant and unrelenting stress, though, the endogenous opioid system can simply become overwhelmed in some people, where there's just not enough endorphins to ever satisfy the need to help bring their body back to homeostasis. People who experience chronic stress in time will develop a tolerance to endorphins, where they literally experience opioid withdrawal symptoms, which includes a host of usually labeled as unexplained or ongoing physical and emotional pains. Basically, unrelenting stress leads to having a constant opioid demand and eventually becoming opioid dependent without ever even taking a single opioid drug. When a person becomes dependent on unusually high and prolonged amounts of opioids, whether it is exogenous or endogenous, it's the same. If for any reason a person doesn't receive as much opioids as desired, it becomes a recipe for opioid withdrawal symptoms. Again, without having even taken a single opioid pill. Opioid withdrawal symptoms can be mild to simply awful, because this is based on the degree of dependence. Symptoms can be anything from mild to severe physical pain, anxiety, depression, and sleep symptoms. The body's intention for having you experience the physical and emotional pains is to have you take action to do something to find more opioids from somewhere, anywhere. And if you're not getting the extra opioids through a drug, it then attempts to stimulate its own extra opioids production. And guess what? Since the body is quite familiar with and it's really good at releasing opioids through experiencing stress, out of desperation for more endorphins, more physical and emotional pains are experienced. But because of a buildup of tolerance to endorphins, it's never enough, and a vicious cycle continues. And that's not even the worst of it. A dysfunction in the opioids, or the endogenous opioid system, doesn't only release the experiences of physical and emotional pains, it also reduces a person's capacity for experiencing pleasure. Sadly, an all too common consequence of chronic life stress and a compromised endogenous opioid system is the risk of opioid drug dependency that is perpetuated and all too common, a devastating cycle of craving, binging, and then withdrawal. And again, the craving repeated. Now, chronic exogenous opioid use often leads to the development of tolerance, which is solved by increasing opioid doses. That is why those on long-term opioid therapy typically need higher and higher doses of opioids to achieve the same level of relief. Here's a quote from this excellent paper on opioids. Pain conditions, chronic pain opioid use, and withdrawal from chronic opioid use disrupt the endogenous opioid system. This negatively impacts pain thresholds, opioid sensitivity, mood, and reward sensitivity, contributing to persistent use of opioid medications in an attempt to alleviate adverse physical and emotional states. In summary, thanks to the endogenous opioid system, endorphins are naturally produced by the body in times of stress, pain, and pleasure in order to help bring the body back to homeostasis. However, this fine-tuned endogenous opioid system can malfunction in response to chronic stress and is further exacerbated with opioid drug use. The positive news is that there are viable options to resolve this endogenous opioid dependency caused by chronic stress. Remember, endorphins are released not only in times of stress, but they're also released in times of intense physical activity and pleasure. Well, it's certainly understandable that a person experiencing pain can't exactly participate in vigorous activities. Therefore, the next viable option for releasing endorphins is to focus on experiencing pleasurable activities. Everything from mindfully listening to music, singing, meditation, breath work, connecting with nature and the sun, ecstatic dancing, experiencing positive social connections, touch, and laughter. The challenge is that those living with chronic stress and pain have little desire to participate in any pleasurable activities. However, as difficult as it may be, intentional focus on mindfully experiencing various pleasures takes effort, but is a sure way of improving physical and mental health in the short term and in the long term. For ideas on practical and viable options for experiencing this ever so desperately needed pleasure in life, please visit thepaintruth.org. I realize that people say, if I had no pain, then I'd be able to experience more pleasure. But the nervous system works the other way around. It's like sitting in front of a fireplace and saying, I'll throw in some wood once you give me heat. So to kickstart your endogenous opioid system, you must focus on experiencing new and small daily pleasures in life. You deserve to give your brain alternative options to satisfying its craving for opioids, other than just through stress and pain. Again, everything from mindfully listening to music, singing, meditation, breathwork, connection with nature and the sun, ecstatic dancing, experiencing positive social connections, touch, and laughter.